Ladies and gentlemen, how do?
Special Maga drama report on the miraculous transformation of Margarine Taco Gristle, otherwise known as Marjorie Taylor Greene. Over the past couple of months, the QAnon Jewish space laser lady that we had all grown accustomed to seeing either shouting at school shooting survivors as they walked down the road or kneeling in front of AOC's office, and cursing at whoever might be unfortunate enough to be in there at the time. Has the loudest MAGA voice in Congress had some sort of epiphany, a true come to Jesus moment? The new Empty Gee is a very far cry from the one that was ready to lead an insurrection claiming that Biden had stolen the 2020 election and was hanging around with Enrique Tarrio, the leader of the Proud Boys. Empty Gee even went to visit the insurrectionists that stormed the Capitol on Jan 6th and claimed that they were just peaceful sightseers and true patriots, even if some of them did happen to beat up Capitol Police and take a shit on Nancy Pelosi's desk. Let's take a bad trip down memory lane and look at some clips that our newly reinvented, smiley and virtuous Empty Gee is really hoping that we all forget about and erase them from our memories as if they never happened.
Hey everyone, this is Marjorie Greene, and I want to wish you all a Happy New Year's. How do you get avid gun owners and people that support the Second Amendment to give up their guns and go along with anti-gun legislation? How do you do that? Maybe you accomplish that by performing a mass shooting into a crowd that is very likely to be conservative.
And how did you get kids? Why do you use kids? Why kids? You know, if school zones were protected with security guards with guns, there would be no mass shootings at schools. He has nothing to say because there really isn't anything to say, you guys. He has nothing to say because he's paid to do this.
The terrorist attack in New York and the plane that crashed in Pennsylvania and the so-called plane that crashed into the Pentagon. It's odd, there's never any evidence shown for a plane in the Pentagon.
I remain profoundly concerned about House Republicans' leadership acceptance of extreme conspiracy theorists. Particularly disturbing is their eagerness to reward a QAnon adherent, a 9/11 truther, a harasser of child survivors of school shootings.
Have you guys been following 4chan, Q, any of that stuff? Q is a patriot. We know that for sure, but we do not know who Q is. Basically, the deep state is fighting back against President Trump, the loyal people in his administration, and the American people.
Are you like a crazy person?
He is, he's fantastic. This guy right here is great. Standing up in there in the mucky swamp. Diane always has him in the mucky swamp. Yeah. Joe Biden abandoned Americans in Afghanistan, got 13 of our best soldiers killed, gave a kill list of Americans to the Taliban, and armed an Islamic terrorist nation with $83 billion in weapons like this one. Biden should be impeached. Now I'm doing a gun giveaway of my own, but for Americans only. I want you to win this .50 caliber rifle that Democrats will ban if they keep the House next year. While Joe Biden broke America's pledge to never leave a man behind, Nancy Pelosi is sneaking the Green New Deal into the $3.5 trillion budget. And in 2022, I'm going to blow away the Democrats' socialist agenda. Go to the website below and sign up to win my .50 caliber gun before Joe Biden bans it.
If we could work together the last Congress, there's no reason we can't work together and find consensus on important things in this Congress as well.
The language of bipartisanship being spoken this week on Capitol Hill as President Biden delivered his latest State of the Union message. He also pitched his agenda to the nation, previewing a potential 2024 re-election bid. However, during this speech, one member of Georgia's congressional delegation voiced her approval.
I'll give you a copy. I'll give you a copy. Well, I'm glad to see you. No, I tell you,
Representative Marjorie Taylor Greene doing a little yelling at the president throughout the speech when the president brought up proposed cuts to Medicare and Social Security, and she called the president a liar.
Britain's Foreign Secretary David Cameron says that you should vote through funding for Ukraine. What do you say to that?
I think he tried to compare us to Hitler also. And if that's the kind of language he wants to use, I really have nothing to say to him.
Well, he likened you to an appeaser to Hitler in not voting through funding for Ukraine. Are you an appeaser for Putin?
I think that I really don't care what David Cameron has to say. I think that's rude name-calling, and I don't appreciate that type of language. And David Cameron needs to worry about his own country, and frankly, he can kiss my ass.
But do you think Putin's the good guy in all this?
Marjorie, thank you so much. The news agents in from London. What do you think the message should be to Nikki Haley tonight?
Well, we've been encouraging her to drop out and support President Trump, and I think tonight is the clear message that President Trump is the clear front runner. He's the winner in our Republican primary, and it's time for Nikki Haley to drop out and support him.
Do you think President Trump, Mr. Trump, is closer to picking his VP, and should you be on that list?
Oh, that's the question everyone asks, and no, I don't think Nikki Haley should be on the list, but of course President Trump will choose who he wants for VP.
Would you like to be on that list?
He's got a long list. I support President Trump in any way he'd ask me, but I can assure you it won't be Nikki Haley.
And can you tell me why so many people that support Donald Trump love conspiracy theories, including yourself? He seems to attract lots of conspiracy theorists.
Well, let me tell you, you're a conspiracy theorist, and the left and the media spreads more conspiracy theories. We like the truth. We like supporting our Constitution, our freedoms, and America first. So,
what about Jewish space lasers? Tell us about Jewish space lasers.
No, why don't you go talk about Jewish space lasers? And really, why don't you off? How about that?
Thanks. Thank you very much.
Recently, however, our cross-fit, QAnon-spouting, Trump-crotch-stroking Maga traitor Greene has started to appear as the voice of reason and sanity of the repugnant party. She has been vocally criticizing Moses Mike, Granger, Tiny Johnson, and telling anyone who will listen that he's a very weak and ineffective speaker of the House. She even went as far as to praise Nancy, Dinosaur, I made shed loads of cash from insider trading. Pelosi, who has now thankfully resigned, by saying that at least she got things done.
I assume you heard that the former House Speaker Nancy Pelosi announced today that she's planning to retire from Congress, not seek re-election when her term ends. She's been in Congress for almost 40 years. She's 85 years old. What's your reaction?
Well, my reaction is I believe in term limits, and I've co-sponsored that bill. And it's been decades now that I believe we have seen the failure in Washington, D.C. However, I will praise Nancy Pelosi. She had an incredible career for her party. I served under her speakership in my first term of Congress, and I'm very impressed at her ability to get things done. I wish we could get things done for our party like Nancy Pelosi was able to deliver for her party. So I wish her well in her retirement, but I would like to see people exit Washington a lot sooner rather than wait until they're 80.
Now those people who hadn't heard of the Georgia Gremlin or the Klan Mom might be forgiven if they had come across her recent media outings and thought to themselves that this Trump apologist was one of the very few talking truth to power. However, Mad Marja stops short of criticizing her beloved Satan's come-over, and she would very much like to have a few more licks of his tiny orange mushroom, if only he would notice her instead of Laura Looney Loomer, another prominent QAnon believer. Has this one time conspiracy nut who is doing her best to deny that she ever really believed in QAnon and is now saying that 9/11 did actually happen, really and dramatically changed. Let's take a look at some of her "I'm no longer madder than a box of frogs" and "I'm really nice" and cuddly moments, and see if this is actually a leopard changing its spots.
Now I want to introduce Marjorie Taylor Greene. Thank you.
Thank you. For everyone watching at home, I think it's important to put yourself in these women's shoes. As you're questioning, why can't they just name the names? What you don't realize is they just told their stories of being raped and being abused, being victimized, being manipulated, being coerced, and basically held in a prison of captivity of sexual abuse while they were young teenagers and extremely young, vulnerable women. And in Jeffrey Epstein's home and the places they went with him, they saw the most powerful people in the world in his pictures, and they saw him with those people. Can you imagine how terrifying it would be to name names like that? These are some of the richest, most powerful people in the world that could sue these women into poverty and homelessness. Yeah, it's a scary thing to name names, but I will tell you, I'm not afraid to name names. And so if they want to give me a list, I will walk in that Capitol on the House floor and I'll say every damn name that abused these women. I can do that for them, and I'd be proud to do it. Now, another thing, this is not about politics, and this is a boiling point in American history where the American people, just like Roe just said, there's become two Americas. There's the America for the rich and the powerful and the elite, where they never face any struggles or problems and never experience what real America goes through. And then there's forgotten America that faces all the problems and deals with all the issues and never gets justice for being sexually assaulted and raped by a monster. It shouldn't exist anymore, and people are sick of it. So let's recognize the fact that the administration before and the one before it and the one before it and the one before it and before it never did anything about this. So this isn't one political party or the other. It's a culmination of everyone worked together to silence these women and protect Jeffrey Epstein and his cabal. And this is not just rich, powerful people. Think his drivers, his maids, his chefs, all the people, people that worked in his home, security guards. I heard one story from a young woman that was being raped by Jeffrey Epstein when he was out on work release while he was serving time in prison and had an ankle monitor on his leg. Guess what? There was a police officer outside that door. So this list of names is quite a list of names, and it doesn't extend just in the rich, powerful circles. It extends down to the very bottom where people were paid. And again, I will say this, there's victims suffering today in similar circumstances, and they're terrified to name the names of the people that are currently abusing them. And so with these brave, courageous women fighting this fight, this is a fight for women and children and any person that is facing sexual abuse and rape and captivity and human trafficking right now. And so here's what I ask you in the press. Don't go for salacious headlines. Go for the truth and defend these women and help those of us in Congress that are crossing our political party lines for doing the right thing and trying to do it together.
Yes, you've been outspoken about releasing the Jeffrey Epstein files to the public, including the names of individuals involved in his sex trafficking network. Now, Democrats have been calling for that too, along with some of the other Republicans, but most of your party is pushing back and stalling. Why do you think that is? Because if President Trump is not implicated in there, what is exactly being protected here?
I have no idea, but it seems like very rich and powerful men are being protected. And I will sign anybody's resolution And I'll get on board with anyone's push to release those files, because this is about women, especially when they were teenagers, were victims of rape and sexual abuse by Jeffrey Epstein. And according to the victims, there's a list of men that they haven't released yet. They are afraid of lawsuits. They're afraid of it. And I said I would read the list for them on the House floor because I have speech and debate protection there. However, I also think that this is about all victims of human trafficking, children that are being molested or raped, any men and women that are held in some sort of sexual abuse situation. What does our government say to them if the government will not release the information on the most famous convicted pedophile in history? What is that message back? And I think it's horrendous. And then, you know what else? This has been a failure across administrations. It's not just this one. It was the Biden administration, then the Trump administration, then the Obama administration. It should have, all across, spanning this history, should have been released. And there's clearly powerful people are being protected.
The only one who really got caught is a woman on this, is Ghislaine Maxwell.
Right. What does that say?
The irony of that, yeah.
But they say she's a monster, though.
Yeah,
They hate her.
Comes in all genders.
They hate her.
Yes. No, thank you to you. And Thomas Massey's also been great on pushing on this issue.
Do you think it's a good idea for the military to be marching into our cities and towns right now because maybe people don't like the speech that they're hearing? How do we combat that and get back to going after the people who really are the problems?
Well, you know, on free speech, I want to say that I think that all of us right here are doing a great job of exchanging our ideas and things that we believe in, and we're doing it in a very professional and kind way. And in my opinion, I think we need more of that in America. I really do. And a lot of people wanted me to come on the show and say nasty things and you know, all of us to fight. They wanted all of us to fight.
Thank you for not doing that.
Oh my goodness, no. I didn't want to
around that. It's like 5 to 1.
She could handle it, but she didn't want to.
No, I didn't want to do that today because I believe that people with powerful voices like myself and like you, and especially women to women, we need to pave a new path. This country, our beautiful country, our red, white, and blue flag is just being ripped to shreds, and I think it takes women of maturity to sew it back together. And I think that happens through free speech.
Marjorie Taylor Greene of Georgia. She serves on the House Oversight and Homeland Security Committees. Congresswoman, thanks so much for joining us. When we spoke the other day, last month, it was relatively recently, you acknowledged that the cost of living here in the United States is still high under President Trump. Is that a major reason why Republicans, you believe, lost the elections the other day?
It's a massive reason, and I think they were surprised by it. But it's been something I've been talking about for quite some time, and that's the most important thing people care about: the ability to put food on the table, a roof over their heads, and also their safety and security for their financial future.
Speaker Mike Johnson, Senate Majority Leader Thune, and Vice President J.D. Vance, they all downplayed the election results, disputing that this is a broader wake-up call for your party. Are they wrong?
I don't think they should downplay it. I'm from Georgia, and we lost 2 very important public service commission seats that were statewide races in the state of Georgia. I think that should be a big wake-up call to my home state. We've got the entire slate coming up in 2026 with Governor, Lieutenant Governor, Secretary of State, and John Ossoff's Senate seat is up for election. So I think it's a major wake-up call, as well as other down-ballot races in like Pennsylvania and Mississippi.
You've been really clear, including on this show, about your unhappiness with both Speaker Johnson and Leader Thune. Who would you rather see lead Republicans in Congress?
I think that's a very hard question. Here's my issue. I'm America first, and I don't apologize for that. And I believe Congress, both Democrats and Republicans, should be serving the American people. And when you campaign on America First, it's like having a restaurant advertising like a certain type of food, and then you don't deliver America First, and your customers come in your restaurant and the food's totally different, and they're like, wait a minute, this isn't what I was coming in for. You're not going to have those return customers. And I see it through that business lens. And here, I was telling my staff on the way here, I said, I voted to fund the government on September 18th. And here we are today is November 6th. And the House has not been in session since then. And I truly believe that's an utter failure.
You obviously are very devoted to President Trump. You've made that clear. You have campaigned for him. Is there anything, though, you'd critique or do differently?
My critique is not being focused on America First, but I largely blame that on our Congress because I serve in the House. I also blame that on who's advising him in the White House. Keeping him on nonstop tours around the world and nonstop meetings with foreign countries' leaders is not America First. It's just not. I think domestic policy should be the most important issue that the president and the Republican-controlled House and Senate are working on, and that showed up in the election on Tuesday.
But as the president, does he get some responsibility for that?
Well, of course. I mean, every president is responsible for the way that they lead, but they're also in a silo of information. And I think that's why after the election on Tuesday, you saw President Trump come out and react differently, probably because they couldn't keep him siloed. And here's the polls, sir, and this is what people are saying. I think he saw for himself, and he's reacted.
It's very interesting. You're an influential Republican in the House of Representatives, and we hear you breaking with your party on several issues, like the shutdown, the government shutdown, health care, foreign policy, the Epstein files. You say that's nothing new.
After watching those videos, you might be mistaken into thinking that Margarine Taco Gristle is now a decent human being after all she is, supporting getting the files of her dementia-ridden bosses, BF Jeff, released, and has stood side by side with the survivors, and she has called out the government shutdown and somehow managed not to blame it on the Democrats by throwing Moses Mike, Grinder, Tiny Johnson under the bus. She even says that the Medicare credits should be reinstated, claiming she is worried about the effect that increased premiums will have, but not on her constituents, but her family. However, could it be possible that we are all witnessing a miracle? That she has really changed and has managed to find something that no repugnant has ever found, that being a conscience? Or is there something more to this than meets the eye?
Some tea for you. Marjorie Taylor Greene wanted to run for Senate in Georgia. She was gearing up for that statewide race, and Trump told her no. The White House and Trump land shut down Marjorie Taylor Greene's personal ambitions to run for Senate. And she has been on a revenge tour ever since. All of this stuff is personally motivated. This is a person that is trying to twist the knife on people who frustrated her personal ambition.
They should be furious. You want to know something? And those 101 Republicans and Mike Johnson himself should really be looking in the mirror and asking themselves, how am I going to win an election? Because you're right. MAGA cannot be ignored. You want to know what they constantly love to lecture me, Steve, in our conference meetings and when I'm in Washington? They love to say, oh, Marjorie, your district is different. Oh, Marjorie, your district that's just what your district is. What a bunch of, and that's so insulting. Let me tell you why. The same voters in my district are in every single district across this entire country. And not a Republican in our conference can get reelected without those voters. And those voters are the base. Those voters are MAGA. Those voters are America first. And they are fed up. They're absolutely done. They are hardcore ready to vote for Trump. They're going to jump over every hurdle put in front of them to vote for Trump. but they are very likely, a lot of them, going to be skipping the down ballot races, which is terrifying. And that should really concern everyone. But do you blame them, Steve? When Mike Johnson literally hands over full control to Hakeem Jeffries and allows him to put all the bills, Chuck Schumer rams all these bills through, and Mike Johnson is like, this is the best I can do in a bipartisan government. What a lie. Absolutely a blatant total lie. And here's another lie, Steve. I'm so sick of it. Everybody's lying when they say Democrats are going to take over. That if we remove Johnson, it will make Hakeem Jeffries Speaker. That is a blatant lie. And I'm tired of that lie. That is being a coward.
First off, Hakeem Jeffries runs it right now, so this would just make this would just formalize what is a fact. Number two, call their frickin' bluff. Now's the great unmasking. Now's the time to see Republican and Democrat doesn't mean anything anymore. You're either a populist nationalist or you're a globalist elite, part of the elite globalist. Okay, that's the that's the bifurcated American political scene. Let's have these guys come forward. If they want to resign and turn it over, then it means they're Democrats. Then call their bluff.
Steve, look, they told us we were going to win in 2020, and they stole the election.
The last two videos may seem unconnected, but let's connect the dots, shall we? AOC is bang on the money, and MTG getting the bum's rush and told do not pass go and do not collect that cushy Senate seat by dopey, dementia, depends wearing Donnie and his sheet house telling her to eat shit because they hate her was the catalyst and made this very grimy worm turn. But empty head, empty G, is dumber than a bag of rocks and far too illiterate to have come up with all the talking points that she is now spewing out of that thick-as pig shit mouth of hers. So who is feeding her these talking points and coming up with the narrative? You might have guessed from the non-AOC video that it is one Nazi boy, Steve wife beater, Bannon, as he is also an outsider now, shunned by dementia Donnie and his shit house. First it was the ketamine kid, space cowboy Musk, that sidelined him, and now it's Stephen Nosferatu Miller, so leprosy survivor, and man of many dirty shirts Bannon has a useful idiot in dipshit dimbo empty G to parrot his bullshit as he knows that Cankle's McTaco tits is not going to be around for too much longer if his diet of Big Macs and Diet Cokes with no exercise doesn't finish him off. Then he'll be booted out, and this will leave Maga without a rudder and Niv Ear's worst nightmare. Bannon will be waiting in the wings to fill the void, even if it has to be through brain the size of a pea, empty G.
You know who agrees with you? Congresswoman Marjorie Taylor Greene. Listen to what she had to say just this night.
With this upcoming crisis with health insurance premiums skyrocketing, I think this is like a 5-alarm fire. And to me, it is incredibly embarrassing, and I find absolutely pathetic, really, that all of us are not here in Washington, D.C., working every single day to make sure that we can get the government open, but also solve the problem of affordability for the American people and come up with a good solution once and for all for health insurance.
Your reaction?
Yeah, hell may have frozen over because we are agreeing more than we're not. But I will tell you that while there is a new Marjorie, as some people have said, I do want to give people an opportunity to do their research. And the reality is that the big ugly bill, it only passed with one vote. And if one more Republican would have defected, which we had maybe 2 Republicans that defected, if we would have just had one more, then we would not be talking about higher insurance premiums. Marjorie Taylor Greene voted for this. Point blank, period. Her constituents were the ones that were on the receiving end of this. In fact, I'm sure that we can find tape in committee of me going down and talking about how many people in their Republican districts were going to lose health care, how many children were going to lose health care because of that bill. Now, maybe she didn't care about those on Medicaid and Medicare, and Democrats spent a lot of time talking about the fact that 15 to 17 million were going to lose their health care, but they didn't fully understand, I guess, that when you remove $1 trillion from the healthcare ecosystem, everybody else has to pay in. Also, that the top 1%ers can keep more money in their pockets. At the same time that we've not raised the minimum wage, we're seeing record-breaking profits from those at the top. We know that there are talks about Elon becoming the first trillionaire that we've ever seen in the world. So you tell me if I am feeling so sad for Marjorie or buying into this, because I don't understand why she didn't do the right thing when she had a chance.
What are your thoughts on this? Let me know in the comments. Empty Gee, saint or sinner, do you believe she has changed? Massive shout out to the lads over on AllSharts AI for making my words come to life. Say hello to them. Well, folks, if you enjoyed this video, then not only are you lovely people, but you also have great taste, and you should also subscribe to the Two Davies for news and politics from a very Scottish perspective, and that rantastic Mr. McGuinness. You should also subscribe to Mr. Daily Blasé's channel for merriment, mischief, and the Friday frolics. Cue growling cat.